Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Podcast that entertains, informs, and helps you win. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts. I'm gonna have to redo it.
Run it back.
Running it back. All right. Do we have anyone watching? Anyways.
Not right now.
Okay, great. Running it back in 5 seconds. Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Podcast that entertains, informs, and helps you win. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Alex and Luke. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm a little bit tired. I'm fine though. I have my coffee, but yeah, I'm happy to be talking about some NFL draft prospects. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm doing great. We're going to have a good show today. We're going to talk on some sleepers. We have a lot of prospects to talk about and dive into here. Got a nice little draft guide from PFF to guide us along the way with a lot of information in it. So we're going to give you guys some good analysis on these deeper guys today. It should be a good time. We also have a lot of news and notes to get to today. A lot of things have happened around the league since we last talked, and it should be a good episode.
Yeah.
For sure.
No one's gonna ask me how I'm doing. Okay, fine.
No.
I guess I'll just go to the Monkey Knife Fight ad read then.
Angel, how are you doing?
No, it's too late. I'll just talk about Monkey Knife Fight.
Yo, StreamYard said something. No, I'm kidding. It's a bot.
Oh. Well, Let me talk a little bit about Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is a DFS website that features fantasy games for sports such as the NFL, NHL, NASCAR, and much more. NASCAR, and much more. You can even play DFS for esports. So what are you waiting for? Go on monkeyknifefight.com and use promo code 3CO, that's the number 3CO, to double your initial deposit up to $50. Go make some MKFing money.
Yes, sir.
And I am doing pretty well. I ate a calzone last night that has me still full, but it was totally worth it. And now we move on to the news. Let's start with the news of James Conner signing with the Arizona Cardinals. What are the real life and NFL implications of this move? Alex, let's start with you.
Real life, I suppose James Conner makes the Cardinals backfield better because going into the season with just Chase Edmonds and Eno Benjamin, that's not. I don't know if you want that.
Yeah, not right.
No.
From a fantasy perspective, though, it's kind of interesting because somebody has to be the goal line back there. It was not going to be Chase Edmonds, even though I really like Chase Edmonds and I was really excited for running back one Chase Edmonds, but whatever.
That would have been fun.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like James Conner's not going to be a running back one by any means in fantasy, but it's an interesting spot for him. It's probably slightly better than Pittsburgh just because that offense is really up tempo and could get him in some nice opportunities to score. But yeah, I'm interested to see what resident Steelers fan Luke Sawhook thinks about this one.
Resident Steelers fan Luke Sawhook thinks that James Conner's pretty mediocre. But he is the way I always describe James Conner to people. I say this all the time. Said on the show I did yesterday. James Conner is good at everything, but he's not great at anything. He can do everything you want fine, or even above average slightly, but he'll never be great at any aspect of an NFL rushing attack. So I think that the money was abysmal. I tweeted out yesterday whispers if the money is good enough, he'll probably be the starter there. I think, but I don't think so anymore. I think it's very much going to be a 1A, 1B kind of committee, and they could definitely draft somebody in the 4th or 5th round for more depth who could potentially take over the job. They could actually even draft an earlier guy. I mean, James Conner's contract was literally nothing. So right now, I mean, from their side of things, their investment's very minimal into the position. So if they drafted a guy in the 2nd round, I wouldn't be surprised, but I also would be surprised at the same time. Conner will definitely get goal line carries. He's not the best around the goal line, though, because he's kind of a smaller power back still. It all kind of just depends on how good their offensive line is, because if the O-line's good, he'll probably be good, but if it's bad, he'll be really bad. So we'll see how it goes. I think it'll very much be a committee there, and both guys will probably be around a flex kind of player for fantasy, I'd say. No real star potential. I mean, unless Edmonds really runs away with the job for some reason.
Hopefully.
I wish he did. I did that way. About happy. But I agree with you, Luke. I don't see Conner being anything more than a flex in Arizona. I do think it's a better fit scheme wise for him, but I don't think that they'll give him the carries necessary to succeed and be an RB2, RB1 type of back. So I mean, kind of a useless signing for fantasy purposes, but definitely a good signing for NFL purposes. I think it makes the Cardinals better, more diverse. It allows them to employ two different rushing styles if they want to against an offense, which will probably against a defense, which will probably keep a defense off balance. And it just makes the Cardinals a little bit better, as they've been. I feel like that's what they've been doing all offseason. Every move makes them a little bit better, and they get a little bit better. And now they're definitely in the playoff conversation, but they still need. They got to fix that O line first and foremost if they're gonna have a chance at winning the Super Bowl.
I think they
And
need a corner really badly.
they
Yeah, that
also
too.
really need a corner.
Really badly.
Yeah, that defense ain't looking good with that one.
No. I mean, their line is nasty. Their front seven's really good with Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt. Their secondary is just full of holes. It's an ants and sticks secondary, as you will. It's pretty garbage. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, Patrick Peterson's gone. Who is it? What was it? Buda? No, it's not Buda. Yeah, Buda Baker's there. He's good. But who is their corner Byron Murphy? Wait, no, he's the guy on the Dolphins. What's the guy they drafted like a year ago?
Byron Murphy, you got it.
Is it Byron Murphy? Yeah, he hasn't really done anything yet. But yeah, they need somebody else there, or else that secondary will be pretty bad, I think. But their defense should be pretty interesting to see how much J.J. Watt affects it, even though he's older.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a really interesting team to watch, just period.
Mm-hmm.
So our Cardinals fan over here, Alex, is probably going to enjoy this season.
Yeah, I watch the Cardinals offense. The defense is when I turn off the game. So whatever.
Wait, since when are you like a Cardinals supporter?
I mean, I feel like it's canon on the podcast. I like the Cardinals. I've talked about liking the Cardinals. They're my favorite team.
It's canon? Okay,
You
good.
just don't listen to me, I guess. You don't listen to me.
As long as it's canon, not wrong with it.
Let's talk about another guy from one of my favorite teams who's hanging his cleats up, Julian Edelman. It's a bittersweet loss for Patriots fans to see him go. You know, he's kind of washed up at this point, but still, it's tough to see him just hit us with the bye guys. Sorry, see ya.
Yeah. He just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see. Let's let Angel, my other resident Patriots fan here. I want to hear Angel's thoughts on Julian first.
All right, Julian, I'm talking directly to you. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your years of service to the Patriots Nation. You were an incredible addition, way better than Wes Welker. I don't care what anyone says, because you brought the clutch factor. You brought the tenacity. Luke, I am talking to Julian. I would appreciate you not interrupting me in this moment, because Julian, you will forever be the number one Patriots wide receiver in my heart. Thank you for all the memories. And thanks for catching that ball in Super Bowl 51. I salute you. Amen.
Beautiful.
Amen. Also, how the hell did he catch that pass? I have
no clue.
That was
to
insane.
this day.
He's not a Hall of Famer, by the way. He's not a Hall of Famer.
He's not. That's true. Patriots Hall of Famer, not an NFL Hall of Famer.
Yeah, very much a Patriots Hall of Famer, but he's not a real life Hall of Famer. I saw a meme yesterday, and it was like I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's like a lineup of Spider-Man or Spider-Men. I guess you could say like dudes dressed up as Spider-Man, and there's like three like really like good looking ones, and there's the one that just looks like garbage, and it's like NFL Hall of Fame wide receivers, and it's like Randy Moss, like Jerry Rice, somebody else, and it was like Julian Edelman. It was
boo!
It was hilarious.
Boo.
I thought it was great. But yeah, Edelman retiring, kind of unfortunate just in general, because I mean he's a really good player. I hope he doesn't pull a Gronk and go to the Buccaneers, but I would not. I would rule it out. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, because I mean the whole retirement video, he basically explained the reason he's retiring is because of his injuries he's had, and he can't really stay healthy anymore, which is fine. I just hope he doesn't pull the fake injury WWE gif where he's in the wheelchair and then his leg's not really in a cast and he's fine and he goes to the Buccaneers, because that would suck. Not only because it would suck for Patriots fans to see him leave immediately after like retiring, it would also suck because it would take away the Tyler Johnson hype.
Right.
Oh, Alex would be really sad about that.
No one wants that. No one wants to end the Tyler Johnson love.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's unfortunate. All right, transitioning into our next piece of news. Justin Fields' second pro day. It's come out that he's going to do a lot of things that San Francisco likes. I saw a headline the other day that him and Mac Jones are going to do a lot of like they're gonna put in like quote like Kyle Shanahan's staples into their pro days, which is pretty interesting. I have no idea what the hell that means, but apparently they're going to. And then apparently Justin Fields' second pro day is going to be attended by the 49ers, the Patriots, and the Falcons. So all those teams are definitely in play to draft Justin Fields, apparently. It's an interesting headline. I don't really know how to interpret it very much. I mean, it just kind of shows that he's in play at all the early picks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like there's three ways. Here's how I look at it from the perspective of these three teams. The 49ers are still doing their due diligence between Mac Jones and Justin Fields. It seems like they're leaning. I think I saw the DraftKings odds today. It was Mac Jones was plus 230 to be the pick, which is pretty. Or no, he was negative 230. So he's got
favorite.
Yeah, and Justin Fields was plus 180 or something, which is still pretty good odds, but it doesn't seem like Trey Lance is in play anymore. So yeah, I think the 49ers are trying to finally make their decision with these second pro days. The Patriots have obviously been intrigued by Justin Fields, and it would be kind of weird if they. What are you doing, Peter? This guy is going crazy right now. Sorry. But yeah,
how would you feel if the Patriots traded up for Justin Fields?
I would be ecstatic. That would make my day. I'm getting my wisdom teeth out the day of the draft. You guys know this, and we're going to be live streaming. I might just start crying, honestly, if they make this move. Like I could be overwhelmed by the drugs and the emotions. So I would really like to see that. And then the Falcons. I feel like the Falcons are showing up to this just because people are like, it's kind of weird the Falcons aren't going to the second pro day. And they're like, actually, we are, because we might pick him. We want people to think that we're going to maybe use this pick on a quarterback. Like, we could trade this. I mean, we want to trade this, but, we'll use it on a guy if we have to. We will. Don't make us.
They're not.
They're not, yeah. Like, they're trying to front right now. But, yeah, you guys have any thoughts to add to this?
I've heard some rumors come out lately that maybe Mac Jones isn't the pick at number 3, which would make me really, really sad. But I just read a report before we went live from Bleacher Report saying that, one anonymous GM is convinced that the pick is Mac Jones. And the reasoning that he gave for it was that back when Kyle Shanahan was with Washington, they drafted Robert Griffin and Kirk Cousins in the same draft. And that whole time, Kyle Shanahan was convinced that Kirk Cousins was a better quarterback. And the reason why was because that was his guy. He thought that he had really good decision-making, that he could anticipate throws, which is some of the things that Mac Jones excels at. Which would mean, and Justin Fields doesn't. Justin Fields has a huge arm, but his anticipation for throws, not as great. So all that to say, I do think Justin Fields will fall off and he will be the 4th quarterback taken. And I think it will be the Patriots. Like, at this point, the Pats need to make a move at QB.
Don't fool yourself, Angel.
I'm fooling myself. I know I am, but it just makes too much logical sense for it not to be the Patriots. So we'll just have to see what happens.
It's definitely possible. I think the team that's most likely to trade up for a guy is going to be the Broncos, just because they're closer, so they won't have to give up as much because they're at number 9. And I think if they want to trade up for like Justin Fields, they easily could because it's only 5 picks. Moving up from 15 to 4 is a bit more of a jump. Like, they'd have to trade a lot, but it's certainly possible. But also, the Broncos could stay put and probably get a guy, though, if they just drop and no one really makes an aggressive trade up. But we'll see what happens. I definitely think that all 5 quarterbacks, all the top 5 guys will go in the top 10 at some point.
Yeah, who's not at the pro day for Justin Fields, though? The team that you want to trade up. So what does that say?
I don't know. I do think that they're looking for a quarterback, though. I don't know. I think Trey Lance might be their guy just because, John Elway loves a guy who has a giant cannon because John Elway is a sucker for throw power for some reason. His quarterback scouting has not gone very well so far in his time as what is he, just the owner? He's not the GM.
He's a president, I think, now. He was GM, and then he gave himself a different role so he didn't have to get fired for being a bad GM.
Excellent. Good job, John Elway. I'm proud of you. But whatever the hell you are, John Elway, you need to do a better job scouting your quarterbacks because we all know that Drew Lock is not it. Wait, don't we have a Drew Lock apologist on this show? I forget.
I was about to say I can see Alex as Drew Lock.
I just don't.
Mechanisms
activating. It's not that I'm even defending Drew Lock at this point. It's just like, what is Trey Lance like? How is he better than Drew Lock right now? He played 1 year for a school.
He's not.
Exactly. So why would you pick 2 of those guys? If you're gonna pick a guy, like if you're like, oh, we learned our lesson, Drew Lock was not the answer. Don't pick another Drew Lock. Pick like Mac Jones. Like don't.
Well, Drew Lock. I mean, Trey Lance is raw, but he has a lot more potential than Drew Lock does.
I don't know if I feel like it's kind of similar to Drew Lock coming out because people are literally comparing Drew Lock to Patrick Mahomes. I don't see how much higher of a ceiling you could be compared to than that.
He went in the second round though. Like. He wasn't as good in the sense of like the thing with Trey Lance is that when you're drafting him, you get 2 really good potential skill sets to develop with the rushing capability and the passing capability. But with a guy like Drew Lock, it was just passing, which is nothing wrong with that. But like I'm saying, like the reason Trey Lance is going so high, even though he potentially could be extremely raw, and he probably will be, is that the skill set and like the tools he has is like extreme. I think he has a lot to offer. And after everyone saw what happened with Josh Allen, everyone's looking for the next guy like that.
You're acting like Trey Lance has already been picked 7th overall. Like, what if this guy goes in the 2nd round still? Like, it's not.
There's no way. There's no way in hell. I would bet my life that Trey Lance goes in the 1st round.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to. You can't count your chickens before they hatch, Luke. You should know this.
I'm counting them. Trey Lance is absolutely going in the 1st round. And I bet he goes in the top 15.
I would bet it too, but, Don't write it off. People
I'm not saying that he's going to be good. I think there's a good chance he busts, but I'm saying I definitely think he'll go top 15.
Okay. Let's wrap this one up. We were going to go short with the news today, but we actually had our longest news segment yet. So
that's not a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about one QB attending a pro day. So why don't we just keep talking about quarterbacks? How's that sound?
Yeah. Sounds great. We're going to go into our quarterback sleepers for the 2021 draft. Alex, I'll let you start off with this one. This is kind of your guy that you were talking about the other day when you texted me about him and stuff. Well, I don't know if you really like him that much, but he's certainly interesting. We're talking about Davis Mills from Stanford.
Yeah, Davis Mills has been getting a lot of hype in the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of sources that are... Oh, shit, my alarm. My bad. I'm used to the 9 a.m. wake up for this, so I forgot to take that one off. But yeah, Davis Mills, he's a 5-star recruit when he initially came to Stanford. And he's a good quarterback. Like he's 6'4", 225, good size. He ran a 4.58 40, which is pretty impressive. I don't think anybody thought he had wheels like that. And yeah, like there's a lot of like anonymous and also named sources that are saying he could be the 6th quarterback off the board, and he could even be a 1st-round pick in this. I think this talk is crazy because this dude played like this is his combined stat line across his entire career. He had 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and he threw for like just over 3,000 yards. His completion percentage was like right around like 64%. Like that's his entire college career because he had knee injuries and he was behind KJ Costello. Like there's not a lot of sample size with Davis Mills. Mm-hmm. And teams seem to like that he's got like a good quarterback mind, which it's like that feels like a sort of code word for like, this guy's going to be a backup because we've heard it with Ryan Finley, who's the definition of a backup. That guy had a great quarterback mind, and it didn't really get him very far. The one who really stands out as a great quarterback mind, who flew up draft boards and then ended up doing absolutely nothing, was Kyle Lauletta. He was the 3rd-round pick by the Giants the year of 5 quarterbacks in the 1st round, and that's exactly what Davis Mills reminds me of right now, where it's like, oh, this could be the next guy though after everybody else. But the few as I talked to you guys about before, there's not a good track record of these quarterbacks who fly up the board at the last minute becoming anything at all.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm just wondering what you guys think in general on this guy.
One interesting thing, Alex, I'm looking at this this PFF scouting report here that we have pulled up in front of us for Davis Mills. And one thing you mentioned a second ago that was really interesting about him is that he ran a 4.5 840, which is very quick for a quarterback, very fast. I mean, Justin Fields ran like a 4.4 something, which is insane. But I mean, a 4.5 something, I mean, that's really, really fast for a quarterback. One thing that's interesting, though, to me is that in his weaknesses section in the pros and cons, it says not mobile or even nimble in the pocket, which is very interesting to me. If he's rising up the draft boards because of that speed, but if during games and tape he doesn't really move well, it's a bit interesting to me that is something that scouts are really looking at as a positive if he doesn't even use it in his play style. I think that the interesting thing, as you mentioned, is that there's a lot of unknowns with him, and there's a lot of, I mean, he's a high pedigree prospect. He was a 5-star guy. He has a lot of pros as far as his strengths and his skill set. It'll just be interesting to me if you can see that this late riser can transition into late round NFL QB success, which is very rare. I think it's pretty likely that this guy will never be more than a backup, but if he ever does get high draft capital, it'll be very interesting to keep an eye on him.
For sure.
Yeah, Luke, so you know how you said don't get my hopes up for Justin Fields?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's because you're right, I shouldn't, because the Patriots are absolutely going to draft this guy.
You think so?
The second coming, I mean, Alex and I have been talking about it. He's been preparing me for the possibility that this might be the guy that the Patriots are like, ooh, Matt Castle? We won 11 games with Matt Castle at quarterback. Maybe we should draft him again, win 11 games with the Matt Castle wannabe. So, I mean, I'm basing that off of the NFL player comp on this PFF draft guide, which is Matt Castle, which is interesting because Matt Castle's not the worst quarterback in the world. I mean, I enjoyed watching him. Quick little story. When I first started learning football, I thought Matt Castle was better than Tom Brady. Don't judge me too much for that one, but that's
yeah.
Fun. I know. I'm ashamed. But he seems to be an accurate passer that doesn't hesitate too much. The ball comes out of his hand quickly. The only problem is he's not very good scrambling. He can't place the ball well when he's scrambling. I mean, when I look at his touchdown to interception ratio, it's pretty yuck. And I would imagine that there were more balls that he threw that could have been intercepted that weren't. His completion percentage, not that great, probably because when he scrambles, he can't place the ball for his life. So this is, like Alex said, the perfect making of a backup quarterback. Like if you had to design the backup quarterback that probably will keep you close in games, but will never like actually put you above and let you win, this is probably that guy. So he's promising, maybe. He's exciting for sure because of that 4.5, maybe. But I wouldn't. If I'm a franchise, I'm not spending anything more than a third round pick on him, which obviously means the Broncos will take him in the second round.
Yeah, he's a lock to Denver in the second for sure. So that was Davis Mills, very interesting prospect. We're transitioning into Ethan's favorite player of all time, quarterback out of Texas A&M, Kellen Mond. Alex, why don't you kick us off here with Mond talk?
Yeah, Kellen Mond is a guy who there are like people in the industry who really like Kellen Mond. They have him as like a first round quarterback. Like I know Chris Sims really likes Kellen Mond. He has him over, I think, Justin Fields and Trey Lance in his rankings, which is a bit blasphemous. Preposterous.
But, it is preposterous, TBH.
I mean, I like Kellen Mond. I think he's a pretty good player. There's a lot of sample size on him, which is nice because you can just go back and see like his improvements year to year. Every year, his completion percentage got better. And part of that is him getting better, and part of that is the scheme just becoming more favorable for him. But the one thing that I think holds him back in the eyes of like amateur scouts like us is if you watch him throw the ball, it looks gross. His throwing motion is really wonky. He looks like a rusted up robot who was in the garage for like a week and then got put in storage for 10 years. Like this dude, it's not fun to see him throw the ball, but it gets the job done because he's got a pretty good arm. He's pretty accurate. He's a good athlete. He played 4 years in a pro style offense, and he's got good like. He's not quite Eli Manning at avoiding sacks. Eli Manning in that one Super Bowl against the Patriots was the most unsackable quarterback I've ever seen. But he's he knows when to not take a hit, and I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a good kid. He could be a nice developmental quarterback, kind of like a Dak Prescott type. Not saying he's going to become Dak Prescott, but I wouldn't mind if the Patriots strike out on these guys in the first round. If they took him in the second or third round, I could talk myself into Kellen Mond being an okay quarterback. But I'm interested to see what you guys think of Kellen.
AJ, why don't you take this one?
Cool. So based on what I've seen and read, one thing that I do like about him is that he is able to play on the move. He's able to throw the ball outside the pocket, and his accuracy doesn't suffer as much. Of course, that's also a kind of a con because his accuracy isn't that good to begin with. But I mean, if you're not going to be accurate in the pocket, if you can keep that same accuracy outside the pocket, that's good. That's a good sign. He played in a pro-style offense, which translates well to the NFL because a lot of the times the problem with NFL quarterbacks is they play in this college offense that's well-suited for them, and they go to the NFL with an NFL-style offense and tempo, and they just can't adjust. So I do like that. That's a pretty good sign. I do think that he has a lot of experience. Like, he's played all 3 years, dropped back a ton of times. So that's good. But I don't... He's a good dual threat, but I could never see him consistently making good throws or special throws that put him above an NFL backup quarterback. If the Patriots got him, I would completely reverse my stance and say he's the second coming of Tom Brady. But because I don't think that'll happen, I'll just go ahead and say I think he's a solid NFL backup for the future.
You're most likely. And also, Angel, isn't every quarterback that the Patriots draft late the next Tom Brady? At least every year. That's fair. But yeah, Kellen Mond's a really interesting guy. I think you hit a lot of interesting points on him, guys, already. But some of the things that stand out to me is that he is pretty average in terms of his tools, in my opinion, for a quarterback. I think the thing that you like about Kellen Mond is, like Alex was talking about earlier, he has a lot of experience. There's a lot of tape to watch on Kellen Mond. There's a lot of things that you can go and check out on him, which is really good. The bad things is that the arm strength isn't incredible. The decision-making is fine, but he doesn't really throw the ball deep a ton. And just across the board, like I think it says in this PFF draft grade here, it says the bottom line, quote, after years of hoping for next steps, Mond still looks like just a guy. And I feel like that's never really what you want out of a quarterback prospect, because if you want to see a lot of experience, you're going to look to see a track record that looks like he can be a really good potential like breakout, or you're looking for a continual progression upward in the sense of the potential is very large, or you're looking for 1 year in really good play that you're looking to take to the next level. And for Kellen Mond, I feel like you're getting a lot of experience of good quarterback play, but not necessarily starting NFL quarterback play. So, I mean, if Kellen Mond lands in the right situation, obviously he could develop into something. He has as Alex said, a good head on his shoulders. I think he can make some stuff happen, but he'll need to land in a pretty favorable circumstance.
Why don't we go ahead and, if we had to pick one of these quarterbacks that'll make an impact fantasy-wise in the NFL, who would you pick? I would go with Davis Mills.
I would also take Mills.
Taking Kellen Mond.
Really?
Yeah, I like the rushing upside, and I feel like he's a better fit for to immediately come in and start and be okay for a team.
I'm flipping my pick. Yeah. I'm going with Kellen Mond just because, like Alex said, the rushing upside. You're right, Alex.
Oh, you can't just switch over because the Debbie guy said so.
Well, no. It's because he brought up the rushing. I didn't think about that. Rushing in fantasy is a cheat code.
Sorry,
just the way the game works these days, man. Don't blame me. Anyway,
I might edit in some boost just for you, Luke.
Please do. It's all right. Boo me. I don't care. All right, transitioning into our running back sleepers, we have 3 guys to talk about here. Up first, we have Demetric Felton out of UCLA. Alex, why don't you hit us off there?
Yeah, Demetric Felton is a guy that fantasy football people are going to like because he's going to have that running back wide receiver eligibility, at least on platforms like Sleeper that allow that. There's other ones that are, not so great about doing that. But Demetric Felton, he's a fine player. Like, he's not like he's not going to be a superstar by any means, but he is a very good route runner. He's a very good pass catcher. He's a pretty good runner in between the tackles. He's the exact kind of guy that you'd expect a running back wide receiver hybrid to be. So, and the thing that often holds these guys back at the NFL level is that they don't have a real position. But this guy, unlike those failures at that hybridity, he has two positions, which is exactly what you want from a guy. You don't want a tweener. You want a guy who can actually do both. And I think for this reason, he's going to be a third or fourth round pick by a team. Maybe like the Packers. I know the Packers have a history of liking guys like that. You go back to Randall Cobb, and even you go to guys who they used last year, like Tyler Ervin. Tyler Ervin is this exact type of player, except Demetric Felton has a higher ceiling. He's a guy who you can use on returns. You can use him on third downs if you want. You can use him in the slot. He's just a nice gadget to have in your offense. And I'm intrigued by him. I'm not going to like chase after him in drafts once he gets picked, regardless of where he lands. But he's interesting to monitor, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on him.
I'm intrigued, Alex. Not gonna lie. I mean, we talked about him a little bit pre-show just to get more of a sense of what I'm looking at here. But as you know, I'm an Antonio Gibson lover, and I'm a sucker for running backs converted from wide receivers now. Not gonna lie, I'm interested in it. I mean, I shouldn't go all in, obviously, but I'm like what I'm seeing here and from this PFF draft profile. 5'10", 200, good, decent weight and size there. I mean, I don't hate it at all. His NFL player comp they have listed on here is Justin Forsett, which I think is pretty interesting. Don't love that, but it's okay. They say his biggest strength is his shiftiness, which I love, and his biggest weakness is running between the tackles, which is understandable. I mean, he's a newer player to the running back position, which is what you're going to expect if you're converting from a wide receiver to a running back. You're not going to be as good running between the tackles as someone who's been playing running back since like 7th grade. He apparently has really good shiftiness, which I like. He doesn't lose any speed coming out in and out of route breaks. A true passing weapon, it says, which I really appreciate. I mean, we all know that fantasy PPR and receptions is king for the running back position, and we all know that receptions are extremely valuable for fantasy football. And if this guy can even transition into a decent NFL running back and get the receiving work of a wide receiver kind of thing out of the backfield, get like, if he ever turns into a guy who can get upwards of like 40, 50 receptions a year, I mean, he'd be absolutely money. It just kind of depends on what kind of situation he lands in. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes and what kind of capital is invested in him.
I like that the PFF draft guide has the following line in it. Very likely a child tag prodigy. Like, I mean, do I need to say anything else? I want this guy. I want this guy to succeed. Like,
I agree.
I hope he lands with a team that knows how to use him. But besides being a child tag prodigy, I think he's got a lot of potential just based on the fact that he is an excellent route runner. And NFL teams are starting to adopt an offense where you can dump it off to the running back and have them make something with it, make something out of nothing. So there's a role for him in the NFL. Alex said he might be a 3rd or 4th round pick. That's not bad for a running back, like at all. And he might just be in the top echelon of running backs that aren't the top 3, Javonte, Etienne, and Harris. So based on that, I think he might be able to make a significant impact on a fantasy level, if not this year, eventually, depending on where he lands. If he lands somewhere with the Packers, maybe not as much because of Aaron Jones. If he lands somewhere like, I think it'd be interesting to see him in the Cardinals. Without Connor and Edmonds there, he'd be very, very interesting. But even with them, he'd probably be an intriguing 3rd round back. But that's my take on him. I like him. I like that it seems like his route running would translate very well to the next level, especially out of the backfield. Going to ruin those linebackers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Alrighty, we're about to get into our next guy here, Jaret Patterson out of Buffalo. Alex, why don't you get what's going on that guy?
Well, Jaret Patterson, the one thing that you can definitely say about him in college is that he was productive. You just look at his stats for the last 3 seasons. This guy had over 1,000 rushing yards every season since 2018. And in the last 3 years, how many touchdowns would you guys say is a lot for a running back to score in a 3-year period?
Oh, in a 3-year period?
Yes.
I mean, over 10 a year is impressive. In my opinion.
This guy had 52 touchdowns in 3 years.
Holy crap!
But he
Yeah,
played in the MAC.
he did play in the MAC.
For the
But
record, hashtag MACtion.
But he's 5'9", 195. So I think that cancels out the MAC. This guy he's a small back, but he runs with a good amount of power for a guy his size. I feel like in a lot of ways he reminds me of like Devin Singletary, where like he'll break some tackles and he'll do a lot of things that you'd expect a bigger back to do, but he's kind of new to the like scat back catching passes and like doing stuff out of the backfield, which is exactly what you'd expect a guy of his size and like athletic skill set to do. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, his cutting ability is crazy. Like this guy is he's like pew pew, like just tough to take him down.
He's cut up.
I think he's going to be an interesting pick because there are definitely teams like the Bengals who could use a sort of like scat back of Patterson's like likeness. And there's definitely teams that he could go to that would absolutely bury him and make him useless. And I hope that doesn't happen. But I'm interested to see what you guys think about him.
I think that thing you just said about the Bengals makes a lot of sense. I mean, they really need they need a guy like this. I mean, Giovanni Bernard just hit the door just solely based off money concerns. And it's not like they wanted to get rid of him. They need another guy to come back into that role. I mean, Samaje Perine is not a scat back kind of dude. I mean, he's more of a runner. So they definitely are going to be looking for a fifth, sixth, maybe even fourth at the most round running back. I think that they'll look to bring in and be like the receiving back kind of guy. Dude, how gross would it be if they drafted Kenny Gainwell? That would make me vomit all over the place.
I would want that. No way.
I would hate that. Oh my god. Okay, anyway, but back to Jaret Patterson. As I talked about a little bit earlier, he played in the MAC and he had a couple insane games. Didn't he score 8 touchdowns in a game, Alex? Isn't this that guy?
He is the guy.
He went nuclear at times, but he played behind a very good offensive line apparently in Buffalo. I might have seen this guy play in person actually if he played for them. He did play for them the other year. Yeah, I saw this guy play. Miami beat them. Let's go. Go Red Hawks. Anyway, he has really good vision and patience, and he played really well in a zone-heavy run scheme. So I was gonna say, if this guy lands up in San Francisco somehow, I would be in as a dart throw, either in a waiver or like a 4th or 5th round rookie draft pick. If he lands in San Francisco, I would definitely be interested in this guy's skill set. I think he can make a lot of plays happen. I think it's going to be interesting to see if he truly transforms into that third down scat back kind of guy, or if he transforms into a more of a second/third down utility-ish back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Angel, how you feeling? Talk to me.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Buffalo's offensive line was really good. They actually had the highest team run block rate in all college football. So that you love to see it, but also yikes for Jaret Patterson because one of his strengths is that he has outstanding vision and patience. But it's kind of hard not to have outstanding vision when your offensive line is opening you holes up like that. So that already has me a little hesitant on him. He doesn't really appeal to me, to be quite honest with you. I don't see him ever being fans. Like, I'm gonna be real. Like, he's not the type of running back that I particularly like, or that I think will succeed at the next level. And this offensive line, like, that already has me worried about him. So he's not particularly fast. Like, I could go off on this guy right now. Like, I just don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like what I'm seeing.
You're gonna bury him.
I'm gonna bury him like Steve. You guys know that Stephen A. Smith where he's like, he's got small hands, he can't catch the ball. He's got bad feet, he doesn't know any post moves. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. With Kwame Brown. Yeah,
Kwame Brown. I'm about to do that with Jaret Patterson, but no.
Dude. Memorize the entire script from Stephen A. and recite it. Not about Kwame Brown, about what's his face? The guy from Buffalo, Jaret Patterson.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, getting into our next guy, a guy that Alex and I had never heard of until Angel mentioned him pre-show and put him in the show doc here that we don't have, by the way. Israel Tucker out of Louisiana Tech. Angel, this is all you. It's your time to shine.
Sure. So before I do that, I just want to reassure the viewers there is no show doc. We would never.
You would never
participate in such blasphemy. We just go off the dome here at 3 Coast Sports. Now that I got that sorted out. Israel Tucker. He is a very, very late round. Like, if Jaret Patterson is a 6th-round pick, this guy might be a 7th-round pick or undrafted rookie. But he is fast. He had a 4.46 40-yard dash at his pro day. He's not too big, though. He's 5'8", 200 pounds. Not too explosive with a 38.5 vertical jump. But he is being looked at by a number of NFL teams as a potential day 3 pick. Those teams include the Eagles, the Titans, and the Patriots. Girls to the Patriots, I don't know why we're even looking at running backs. I mean, we have 2 of the best in the league, Damon Harris and then Sonny Michel. I'm excited.
I half agree with that.
Yeah, Damon Harris makes up for Sonny Michel. Anyways, this guy could potentially be a running back on the. I saw a player comp that said Boston Scott, and Boston Scott's not a bad NFL player. Like, he's pretty solid. He's never going to be an RB1, but if need be, he can come in, give you a solid game, and then have the starter come back in. So that's Israel Tucker. He's nothing too special, but he could just be someone to keep an eye on day 3. And a potential addition on the waiver wire for your dynasty teams.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be someone to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting to see if he lands anywhere good. I definitely will be looking for him. I don't know if he'll necessarily make it on any of my fantasy rosters, but I'll be interested to see what happens with him. All right, moving on to the wide receivers. We have 3 guys I think I'm pretty interested in here, especially the second dude we're going to talk about today. But the first guy is my baby. He is not even located in the PFF draft guide, so I don't know what that says about how good he is. But I really like this film. We're talking about Austin Watkins, wide receiver out of UAB. This guy played in JUCO for a long time and then transferred to UAB last season, and he played there this past year. He's 6'2.5" and around like 204, I believe. He's a pretty big dude, but he plays more of like the wide receiver 2 position in the offense. He is a nice player because he's a really big bodied guy, but he plays with like the twitchiness and separation kind of abilities that you like to see out of like a good wide receiver 2 on the outside. I don't know. I feel like he's just a really good low risk, high reward kind of guy because he could easily develop into a starting caliber NFL wide receiver on the outside. He looked really good in the Senior Bowl, apparently. People really liked him there. I saw he actually did an interview with a fantasy show that I watched the other day. He came on someone's fantasy show, did like a full interview. It was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Seems like a nice dude. I really like this film. He has 1 game of film available on the Dynasty Nerds film room. Alex, if you're ever curious, I like this film. I thought he was really interesting. He was not bad as a blocker. I watched a little bit of it yesterday actually during a show I did. I pulled it up because we were talking about him. I like this film. I just think that he shows good potential. He's not probably going to go until like the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. He'll definitely be a later guy. But I feel like if he lands on a decent team and manages to climb his way up the depth charts, he's definitely worth taking a look at in a really deep leagues. If the waivers are pretty barren, I would definitely go stash Austin Watkins. I might even pick him up in some of my normal leagues just to have him on my bench because I like him. So that's Austin Watkins. Moving on to our next guy. Alex, this has been your dude for a while now, and I'm not going to lie. I'm getting on board the hype train. We're talking about Jalen Darden.
Yeah, Jalen Darden. I've said a lot about Jalen Darden, so I'll keep my assessment here brief. He's small. He's a small receiver. He's going to get pushed around because he is small. But just because he's small doesn't mean he's not good.
Amen.
He's very good. He's a very good player. He's incredible after the catch. He gets downfield faster than like most of the guys in this class. Like he's probably top 3 vertical threats in this class. Like he's just gonna fly right down there. He's gonna blow by defenders. And the only problem with him is the contested catches, because if a guy catches up to him and tries to break up the catch, he's probably not going to catch it. Like it's just he's not good at that yet. But if he's open, if they get the ball in his hands, he's going to do some damage. He reminds me so much of Jalen Reagor, and I feel like it is a good thing. I knock Jalen Reagor a lot. It's not because I have a problem with Jalen Reagor. It's because I have a problem with Jalen Reagor as a first-round wide receiver who's a wide receiver 1 for a team.
Yes.
That can't be your wide receiver 1. You can't have a guy who's not good in contested spots, a smaller guy, You just can't have that be unless it's Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill is a freak. Like there's not more than one Tyreek Hill. But if that guy's your third or even your second option in the right offense, he's going to be great. Like you need a guy who's going to take the top off the defense like that. That's exactly what Jalen Darden is. Like what I like about him is there's a lot of film available on him, and it's consistent across the board. He does the things that he does well, you see. The things he doesn't do well, you see. You know exactly what you're getting with him. And it doesn't really matter to me where he gets drafted. If he's a third-round pick, that's great. If he's a sixth-round pick, that's great. I think regardless of his draft spot, his role in the NFL will be the same. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where he lands, and I'm excited to see him in the NFL, and I'm interested to see if you guys have any final thoughts on him before we transition.
Yeah, just tapping on Darden real quick. I mean, like what Alex has been saying, I think that he has a lot of great potential. I mean, I've seen what these mid-round, third-round twitchy guys can kind of do. I mean, he's not Deontay Johnson, but I remember like when third-round kind of wide receiver, I was really in love with Deontay when the Steelers picked him. And I'm hoping he could kind of be in a similar realm of opportunity eventually, a third-round guy that could potentially start to, find his way into the starting roster for an NFL offense and then eventually really show some nice flashes there. I just like the twitchiness and ability to separate that Darden has. He has a lot of great intangibles that come across on film. He really pops when you watch him. And like Alex said, the contested catches are a bit of a concern, but I feel like if he lands in the right spot where there's already a one established, he could be really, really good. Like I feel like there's no doubt in my mind that the guy's a really good NFL talent. I think, Alex, you can agree on that. He's a really talented player, and I'm excited to see what he can do at the next level.
Yeah, just to wrap it up, I love slot guys that are really, really quick. And this guy is far more than really, really quick. Like his quickness might be one of the best in the NFL once he gets to the next level. That would mean that as long as he's open, like you mentioned, Alex, the catch and traffic is still developing, but as long as he's open in the slot, he can take a 10-yard catch and take it to the house. You will love that in an NFL slot wide receiver. Not many can do that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the third round and a really good team drafts him. So I'm interested to see where he lands. Thank you for opening my eyes up to this guy, Alex. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyway, moving on to our third and final wide receiver sleeper, we have Josh Imader. What was it? Hebe?
Imador Bebe.
Bebe?
Yeah.
Bebe. You get it. He has like the best name in the draft. That last name is incredible. Alex, why don't you hop into actually a bit of his like scouting report?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the most productive receiver in college. I think the hype for him was really big because he's an incredible athlete. He's a bigger receiver, but he's really fast, jumps really high. Just in general, super agile, great acceleration. Everything about him except for his production pretty much screams this guy could be a really great receiver. And we've seen a lot of guys like that who come in and they're just like great athletes. People hype them up as like, oh, this guy's going to be the next big thing. And then it doesn't work out. And that could be the case here too. But there's also a chance that he lands with the right team and he becomes a really good player. So, it's not always a bad thing to keep guys on your radar who are elite athletes because, elite athletes tend to become elite NFL players in the right systems. So, yeah, I'm interested if you guys have any thoughts on this. I know the Patriots are a team that have been interested in this guy, and I would be happy to see them pick him up in like the 6th or 7th round because he's definitely going to be a bit more explosive than N'Keal Harry. So,
Yeah, Angel, why don't you take this one first?
Sure. So I always like keeping an eye on developmental prospects that might have a future as an X wide receiver, and that seems to be the ideal fit for this guy. I love prospects that have that above average vertical speed, but based on what I read about him, he's also got a really great ability to high point the ball, which is critical in the NFL. So I'll keep this guy on my radar. Obviously not going to be drafted probably in any rookie drafts unless it's in like the 5th round. But he's a really good waiver wire addition to keep an eye on. Maybe put him on your taxi squad if you're in dynasty leagues and into that sort of stuff. And I think he's definitely interesting. He's an intriguing prospect for sure.
Absolutely. Now it's time to get into our big meaty men, the guys that we love to throw in run blocking scenarios. You can also catch a pass unless you're Kyle Pitts. And we're going to start off with tight ends. We're going to talk about Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame. Alex, why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, Tommy Tremble, the predecessor to Cole Kmet, who was the Notre Dame tight end who flew up draft boards last season. And the same is kind of happening with Tommy Tremble. They're not very similar players. Tommy Tremble is definitely a blocking tight end at his core. He's an excellent run blocker, but he is a great athlete. He has really good speed for the position. He's really strong, really agile. His receiving skills need to be developed more. He's not a great pass catcher yet, but we've seen tight ends who come in and are not great pass catchers, and if they're elite athletes and if they're good blockers, they can stick on the field. And sometimes those guys become George Kittle. So if Tommy Tremble can become George Kittle, that would be pretty great. But even if he doesn't, like, if a guy can stay on the field and block and he's a good athlete, there's a good chance that he could develop into a starting tight end. And Tommy Tremble is really young. I think he's 20 or maybe just turned 21. He's really young, and there's a lot of room for him to grow as a player. So I'm kind of excited about him. He might be more of like a fullback type of guy at the NFL level. We'll see. But I'd be happy with him as a developmental tight end prospect in a tight end premium league for my teams. I'm interested if you guys have any thoughts to add to this.
Yeah, not gonna lie, kind of out just because I'm not a huge blocking tight end on my fantasy team kind of fan. I do understand though, like what you were saying, like he's a good stash for especially tight end premium leagues. But when I'm looking for fantasy tight ends, I'm looking for a guy who I know has good hands and can handle receiving workload. And in this PFF draft guide here, his weaknesses are all throughout the passing games. He had 31 fewer targets than Notre Dame's freshman tight end, which is never really a good sign. He also does not have the best hands because he had 5 drops on 40 career catchable balls. And he's not really the best route runner. He just didn't really see a lot of receiving work at all. I mean, in his 2020 and 2019 season combined, he saw just over 50 combined targets. He had less than 40 career receptions at Notre Dame. The potential's there. Obviously, he can develop. But like when I'm looking for a guy to add to my fantasy roster, unless he has good draft capital, I'm not really looking to add him.
I mean, with a name like Tommy Tremble, how can you not succeed? That's my analysis. No, much like Luke, I would be out. When there's a blocking tight end, I think that's a good sign actually, because it means that they'll get on the field. Much like our man Michael Pittman Jr. With his run blocking ability that gets him on the field. Being on the field is always a good thing, but I just don't think he has the hands or the ability to ever become a fantasy relevant tight end. Then again, I always preface that with, as long as you're a top 20 tight end, you're fantasy relevant, because between tight end 8 and tight end 20, it's pretty much the same thing. True. So who knows? Why don't we go ahead and move on to our last guy, another guy with a great name, Matt Bushman. Alex, why don't you take it
Bushman.
Away? Yeah, well, Matt Bushman, interesting player. He's 25 years old because, he's a Mormon, so he had his mission, and then he came back and did BYU, and then he tore his ACL, and then he was there. He's like a fifth-year, like, Mormon senior. He's like Taysom Hill pretty much, except the tight end. Although Taysom Hill is a tight end, so. But, yeah, he's a good receiving tight end. He didn't play this year because he hurt his ACL.
Oh, no.
Which is sad because Zach Wilson was awesome this year, and he would have looked great with him. But there's a chance that he's an undrafted free agent, lands with the right team, and gets a nice role as a receiving tight end. So, yeah, I like Matt Bushman as a flyer.
Yeah, once again, like I said for the last guy, I guess I'd be more on this guy as a flyer just because he's more of a receiving tight end. I think that's obviously more desirable for fantasy football. We all know that receptions are king, especially for fantasy points. You're not going to get points for blocking in the trenches, unfortunately. That's why we should make a new game mode, guys. It's like a blocking gets you points. Like Drew Sample would be the 101. It'd be awesome.
That'd be great.
It would be great. But Matt Bushman, like you said, he'd be a great late-round flyer in tight end premium leagues, especially if he does develop. I'm not really that in just because, like you said, he could likely become an undrafted free agent or 7th-round guy. And, the draft capital is pretty important for tight ends, in my opinion. I feel like most NFL teams has a pretty developed tight end room anyway. I don't think there's really a lot of teams out there that have a glaring tight end hole. So Bushman will be interesting to see where he lands, and the draft capital would be very important to me, if any.
For sure.
All right, look, I just have one question. We've talked about all these prospects, and I can't help but think, if only there was a way for me to like invest in one of their careers and it just took off. Like, imagine how much money you could make if there was an
Man.
app
You could make a lot of money.
or website that allowed you to do that. Like, if I want to invest in Pete's career as an NFL wide receiver, imagine that. But I don't think there's such a thing, unfortunately.
If I could invest in Pete's career, that'd be incredible. But yeah, PredictionStrike.com. Go over and check it out, guys. Use your promo code 3CO. PredictionStrike.com is an awesome new website where you can go over and invest in the real-life careers of athletes if you can use your fantasy knowledge to your advantage. You can go over and invest in guys like Jonathan Taylor and then have the month of November happen and have your Jonathan Taylor share go up by over 300%. So if you were to hypothetically invest like $1,000 in Jonathan Taylor, you would have been a very rich man last November. But that being said, head over to PredictionStrike.com, use promo code 3CO. They have NBA stuff going on right now. If you're into NBA, you can target more DFS kind of plays or long-term investments in guys like Luka Doncic and LaMelo Ball, or you can go for very specific DFS style plays due to injuries and stuff like that. NFL season will be awesome for Prediction Strike this year. They're going to be growing a lot and having a lot of new updates. So head over to their website, PredictionStrike.com, and use our promo code 3CO, 3CO, to get 50% back on your first initial deposit. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. That'll do it for today's episode. We talked about some draft sleepers, got into some news, and we will be back next week for probably some more NFL draft talk, because that's really all the news we have right now before leading up into the draft. It's going to be exciting. The draft is pretty close. It's just 2 weeks away now. Very exciting stuff. So thank you guys so much for listening. Please turn your notifications on or follow us or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit the bell. If you're on my Twitter, just follow me. If you're listening on any other streaming platform, leave a review, please. It really helps us grow and get featured and pushed out more in the streaming services algorithm. So, yeah, that'll do it for me, guys. Any other parting words, boys?
We're top 100 in the UK, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. That was hype. We got an email. We were like number 7 in the UK for fantasy football. So, shout out, Brits.
Shout out.
Shout out. All right.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
Bye. Guys.